It is Pepsi SWAC Game Day. The final SWAC game of the year is here. It's championship time. Winner goes on to the Celebration Bowl. And on top of that, everybody, there's like 11 other things happening, and safe to say we've got a loaded show today. But first, thank you to our sponsors who've made Pepsi SWAC Game Day possible all season long. Pepsi, official partner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. GM, proud sponsor of the SWAC. Home Depot, proud sponsor of the SWAC. Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods and outdoor retailer of the SWAC. And Nike. All right, folks, rapid fire headlines here. Prairie View at FAMU, Saturday afternoon. SWAC championship winner gets Howard in the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta. Add Texas Southern and Grambling to the list of SWAC schools who have parted ways with their head coaches. It has indeed been a wild, wild west this season. We have all conference awards to announce and discuss, and stick around. It's still early. We have more breaking news, maybe, before we leave. Who knows? All right, let's bring in our guy, Charles Bishop. All right, Chuck. Now, my gut tells me the biggest news of the week so far has been Hugh Jackson being released early from his contract at Grambling. We will discuss that, but first, let's talk about the culmination of the SWAC season. It's what everyone lined up this summer for, a shot at a SWAC championship. Here we are on the eve of winter, and it's come down to this. Only the folks at Prairie View A&M and FAMU will get a shot this season. Chuck, FAMU manhandled a shorthanded, we will give them that, Prairie View team back in late October. What do you expect, Charles, to see out on the field this Saturday?
I expect a much closer game this go around. I think Prairie View is peaking at the right time. As you mentioned earlier, they were a little bit shorthanded the first time they were down there in Tallahassee. But one little nuance in this game, I've already checked the weather report. So far, it looks like 90% chance of rain. So we don't know how that will play into this SWAC championship game.
Chuck, here you come, Chuck, with your bad news, man. I tell you. We don't want rain. We're gonna blow that out of the atmosphere. But the weather is the weather is what it is. We can't control that. Chuck, how much was injuries a part of the last game in that storyline? Both coaches have talked about it, so it makes me think it was a legitimate issue.
I think you take a look at an individual like Ahmad Antoine, senior leadership, a great running back for Prairie View. Even the games that he missed, he was still within the top 10 of the top rushers in the SWAC. And then you lost Connor Wisham in that game. And you know, things just kind of got away from Prairie View going into halftime. And of course, FAMU put their foot down on Prairie View in the second half. But I think there was sort of a domino effect of all that going on. And once Prairie View got behind early, it's tough against that tough FAMU defense.
All right, Chuck, we say this in sports a lot. I don't think it's something that coaches draw up on the chalkboard, but it's hard to beat a man twice. Fans will say that. Do you give that any merit?
I'm not sure I give it too much merit now after watching Jackson State do what they did over the past couple of seasons. That metric never bothered them, but it is difficult. I think there's a lot of familiarity with seeing a team, especially the second go around. And like I said, I think Prairie View will have some pieces back that they didn't have going into that FAMU game. So I'm expecting a really good game.
All right, let's hear from the coaches now, see what they might have on the chalkboard. Someone's season is going to go on. One will come to a close. We have two good friends here in Willie Simmons and Bubba McDowell going head-to-head in Tallahassee on Saturday.
Bubba's one of my best friends in the profession, just a phenomenal individual. Enjoyed working with him those 3 years there at Prairie View, and I'm extremely excited about the success that he's having. You know, he's a first-class individual, and I know he's going to have those guys ready to play. And so, you know, in sports and in life, you know, oftentimes you get a chance to compete against, you know, your friends. And some of the most fierce, I tell our players all the time, you know, I wouldn't consider myself a fighter, you know, from back in the day. But the fights that I did get into, they were all with my best friends. You know, the tussles on the basketball court or playing football, and one of your brothers tackled you too hard, and then you get into a little scuffle. That's the only time I allowed someone to draw me into a fight, was with my best friends. And so, you know, it's a part of the competition. It's going to be a fierce battle between two friends. There's a mutual respect there. We'll talk before the game. We'll talk after the game. And, but we're both excited about the success that we're having. So looking forward to a great contest against a guy that I have the utmost respect for. And because I know Bubba and how I know he's going to prepare those guys, I know we can't definitely, fall asleep and think that this team isn't going to come in ready to play.
No matter what the weather is, again, they got to go in with the mentality that, they got to go out and play football, 4 quarters of football, no matter what the conditions are. Because, again, I guarantee you, family's not worried about that. They're going out. They're going to be ready to go. And as I tell them, you guys got to be ready to go. You got to match their energy or be better than, or your energy has to be better than theirs in order for us, to have a chance to win in this game. We can't go back down in Tallahassee and put up a performance that we put up last time.
Okay, earlier this week, SWAC Postseason Awards were handed out. Your Offensive Player of the Year was your preseason Player of the Year. Jeremy Musa gets the nod from FAMU. Chuck, the quarterback on the best team, often wins a lot of awards. This was the case for Musa. It was kind of his award to lose all season long, and he held on to it.
No doubt about it. I mean, when you take a look at Jeremy Musa, he really dissected defenses in the SWAC this past season. 57% completion percentage, led the league in touchdowns, 18 to only 8 interceptions, threw for the most yardage in the SWAC. So definitely deserving of the award.
All right, his teammate Isaiah Major did major things on the defensive side of the ball. He's your SWAC Defensive Player of the Year. Chuck, that's tough, man. That's really tough. FAMU sweeping the awards. Offense and defense, it really speaks not only to Major and what type of player he is, but just the team overall.
Yeah, when they say strike, strike, strike again, it looks like they did it with regards to the postseason awards. But I tell you, Isaiah Major, he was all over the place for FAMU's Dark Cloud defense, led one of the top defenses, not only in the SWAC, but in the nation. So it speaks a lot with regards to what he was able to do for that FAMU D.
All right, let's make it a trifecta here. Coach of the Year, Willie Simmons. Hard to argue against an unbeaten record in conference play. If that coach doesn't get it, like who else is going to get it, Chuck?
Exactly. I think no doubt about it. Willie Shotgun Simmons definitely deserving of the award. You go undefeated in this conference with the amount of parity that's in the SWAC. It says quite a bit about that team, and he was at the helm. And I tell you what, they were the hunted, and they did not shy away from it. They came out on top.
All right, newcomer of the year, Charles, Jace Wilson. He did a good job. Jace Wilson filling in for Andrew Body, who had the unfortunate injury earlier in the year. It's hard to switch quarterbacks midstream, but he did a really good job for Texas Southern.
He did a tremendous job, and as Texas Southern's coaching staff alluded to, they kind of had to learn Jace along the way during the course of the season, and he did a tremendous job in terms of filling in for Andrew Body. A big signature win against Alcorn, and I tell you what, he really matured into the position as the season progressed. Very well deserving of the award.
All right, and we got Javon Robinson, good old JR, freshman of the year for Grambling State. Nice pickup for the young man there.
Nice pickup for Javon Robinson, 31 catches on the season, 374 yards and a couple of touchdowns. He proved to be another capable option in that Grambling passing attack. Miles Crowley really looked toward him during the middle part of the season, and he really came on.
All right, let's take a moment now to put the first and second team players, offense, defense, special teams, on your screen. We won't go through every single name here, but we do want them to enter your consciousness via the screen. Chuck, that first team defense, man, had a lot of contenders for player of the year there. I mean, you got Bubba Adams. I don't think there was a week that didn't go by that you said, hey, watch out for Bubba. He's a tackling machine this Saturday. We talked about him all year long. Sundiata Anderson, he was your preseason defensive player of the year. Some other names up there, really good choices. And Chuck, on defense, hopefully, man, we'll see some of these guys playing at the next level. That's a lot of talent in the SWAC this year on the defensive side.
Yeah, I have no doubt that you'll be some of these guys will get some tremendous opportunities to play on the next level. I mean, when you talk about a guy like Colton Bubba Adams, like you said, we mentioned week in, week out, he flies around all over the place, double-digit tackler. Rico Dozier, another guy from UAPB, a double-digit tackler all over the place. Amarian Hill Robinson, Bethune-Cookman, one of the best cover corners in the SWAC. A lot of guys on this list that I really do believe you will see play at the next level.
All right, you got the offense, first team, second team. Ladarius Owens, what a year he had running the ball. Keyshawn Johnson, he lived up to his name. Dynamic wide receiver for Alabama State. I mean, just going up and down that list. Shout out to the buffet busters out there. My man Santoria Black, he loves to refer to the O-line as the buffet busters. We saw a lot of points up on the board this year. They had to make sure all those light bulbs worked in the SWAC, Chuck.
Hey, the SWAC has lived up to its reputation once again. I tell you what, a lot of these teams can really put some points on the board. You mentioned a name like Keyshawn Johnson. I called him SWAC's version of Megatron. One of those guys that really would win a lot more 50-50 balls. Throwing to him was more like 75-25, that sort of thing. But I mean, just a lot of great offensive production in the SWAC again this past year, made for another exciting year in this conference.
All right, so we got special teams as well. We really need to show some love here. I mean, you got your place kickers. You need that level of consistency in your program to make sure you get 7 points and not just 6. Your punter. No one knows the punter on the team until they shank one. Then everybody's looking up and down the roster. Who's this guy? Where did we get him from? So show your punters some love, and nothing gets momentum back on your side like a good return man. But finally, Chuck, the man that gets the least amount of love maybe in all of sports. Their name never called, the long snapper. It's a specialized skill that no one in the stands will notice until you do it wrong, and that ball goes sailing over somebody's head. So shout out to Braxton Blackwell from Southern and Clayton Thomas Jr. from Bethune-Cookman, your first and second team long snappers. They will get their flowers today. There you go, your postseason all SWAC awards. All right, so go ahead,
I'm always curious who keeps that metric on the long snappers in terms of whether it's a good snapper bad. I always want to know who votes on that one.
Well, Chuck, I think we're going to put your investigative skills to the test. Next year on Pepsi SWAC Game Day, we expect a full 60-minute style report on that question right there, Chuck. All right, so you got the whole offseason. Get on it, man.
I got you, Tolly.
All right, or we could just call Andrew and just find out. All right, so while we're passing out some flowers here, some people unfortunately got their pink slips in the last couple of weeks. Half of the SWAC West now will have new coaches next season. Texas Southern choosing not to renew the contract of Clarence McKinney, and not to be outdone by Southern, Grambling taking the headlines this week by letting go of Hugh Jackson after just 2 years there in Grambling. All right, talk to me, Chuck. It's been a cold and bold November for football coaches in the SWAC. Some decisions I don't think everybody saw coming.
No doubt. And when you take a look at it, Tolly, to borrow a phrase from The Godfather 2, Hyman Roth said it best. So this is the business we've chosen. And the coaches understand, you're hired to be fired. Like you said, a cold November, if you will, for half of the SWAC West. I think, when you take a look at what Southern, Grambling, and Texas Southern did not meet the expectations of the fan base and obviously the administration, they decided to go in a different direction.
All right, Chuck, at the end of the show, there's this little thing that says copyright Southwestern Athletic Productions. This is a production of the SWAC. I will save all my opinions over at HBCU Game Day. So just go over there and we'll just all stay out of trouble right here because this is a juicy topic. But we're just
there. You go.
We're just here to give you the news. All right, you can comment and take it off. Take it away in the comment section. And we can have some conversations on some other platforms because there's a lot to unpack here, buddy. All right, but a final look at the standings. Let's move on there. So if you had a bet with your buddy on how your team would do this season, and if you're like Chuck and for Halloween you had to dress up like Willie Simmons because you lost the bet or whatever the case may be, it's time to pay the piper, pony up your cash, or maybe you get to collect this year. A final look at the SWAC standings and where your favorite HBCU finished. All right, FAMU overtakes the East this season. Jackson slips a little from the previous 2 years. Alabama State working on a come up. Alabama A&M, they were good at home, struggled on the road. Story of their season. Bethune-Cookman and Valley, they got new men in charge looking to rebuild their programs. But fellas, it's coming up on year 2. Some of that West might. All right, Chuck, I'll let it go. All right, in the West, Alcorn State and Prairie View both finished 6-2, but Prairie View with the tiebreaker. Southern and Grambling, middle of the pack, both with vacancies now. Texas Southern, a victim of the injury bug early on. With Body not able to go, a lot of high expectations didn't materialize there. And Pine Bluff, believe in Alonzo. Coach Hampton seems to have the energy and the drive to make a go of it at UAPB. Look for some exciting things to come, I believe. I think he's got the mojo to get it done. We will see next season. All right, Chuck, you and I were together back when it was hot, 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 hot. We weren't talking about this cold weather. It was hot in Birmingham. It was the summer. It was SWAC Media Day, and we were all there pontificating, prognosticating, all those big P words we were doing. Now, I was on the broadcast with you at SWAC Media Day, Chuck, so no revisionist history here. Did the season go as you thought and predicted? I remember what you said.
I know. I mean, you can go check the tape. But I think, with regards to the SWAC West, that was a pick 'em. Nobody knew in which direction the wind would blow with regards to the SWAC West. I think Southern was picked, if I'm not mistaken, to win the SWAC West. But I think there's a show out there somewhere where I mentioned Prairie View was going to be a team to keep an eye on with regards to winning the SWAC West. So I might win that bit. As far as the SWAC East, I think everybody knew FAMU was that team coming into the season, and they held up to their end of the bargain.
I mean, Chuck, keep an eye on is not a definitive statement. That's just like, let me hedge my bets just in case.
Exactly.
I got to Matumbo you there, Chuck. Don't come through with you won the bet on that one. I mean, it was nice that you said keep an eye on them.
Right. That was a heck of a hedge.
That's how you do, Chuck. We got to keep you in line here. But it really speaks to, man, how exciting SWAC football is every year. We all get together in the summer and we think, this is going to happen. We name our whole team. And by the time we get to November, something totally different has happened. And that's what makes it so much fun.
No doubt. No doubt about it.
All right. Finally, Chuck here, the commissioner. The good doctor, Charles McClellan, he was on Capitol Hill this week. He was talking to our elected officials and delivering the message that HBCUs are here, and with the potential for NIL legislation, our schools need to be in the mix. They need to be represented, and they certainly do not need to be left behind.
Well, I think the first thing is for them to know who we are and that we are representative of over 50 institutions across, the South and the Southeast. And I think that's significant because, in my opinion, when you look at the Congressional Black Caucus, several of those members represent not only our schools, but several of those members are graduates of our school. And if you take that, it's significant because most legislation could either be passed or not passed based upon the Congressional Black Caucus. So we want everyone to know that we are here. We want our voices heard, and we don't want this legislation, if anything is passed, to be passed without the voice of the four conferences. This is one visit of many, but I think it's a significant step in the right direction as the Power Five have their voices. They have their lobbyists. We want them to know that the four HBCU conferences, we have our voices and we have our lobbyists as well.
No doubt. It's good to have an advocate, especially talking to those legislators who are going to be really taking a fine look at NIL and various regulations that go into NIL into the future. So it's great to have a voice and a seat at the table, if you will, Tom.
All right. Again, this is a SWAC production. We do business with the SWAC. Everybody can see that clearly. But that withstanding and not influencing what I'm about to say, I think Dr. McClellan just does an excellent job. I think for someone to have a vision and stay on message and to be process-oriented to get to the goals. And, there's not this moving goal line, and one day you're trying to do this, and the next day you're trying to do that. He's really laid out a vision for the conference. You have to adapt to things that happen in the marketplace and in the world. But I just think every time he speaks of the conference, I believe in what it is that he's saying.
And the proof is in the pudding. You've seen the growth of the conference since he's taken over, and the trajectory has not stopped. It is continuing to move in an upward direction. So I echo your sentiments completely and totally, Tyler.
All right, Chuck, we might get credentials next season as well. All right, let's wrap it up for this season. If FAMU wins on Saturday, what type of problems will they bring? The first time we've mentioned a non-SWAC team here, but it's that time of the year. We got to talk about the MEAC a little bit. If FAMU goes on to the Celebration Bowl, what type of problems would they bring the Bison?
They bring one of the best defenses in the nation to the Bison. When we talk about Isaiah Major, Dark Cloud defense, those big guys up front, that front seven for FAMU can really take over a game. And they're sort of an underrated, if you will, a part of this FAMU machine. But that defense has really stepped up and really carried this team this past season. And then, of course, SWAC Offensive Player of the Year, Jeremy Musa. If he gets in rhythm, it could be a very long day for the Bison.
All right, if Prairie View wins, because I know you have an eye on them, Chuck, what type of situation would they present for Howard in Atlanta?
A very potent running game. I think one of the stats that I've taken a look at with regards to Prairie View, in 5 out of their 6 wins, Trayvon Conley is thrown for less than 20 attempts. So it speaks to their running the game and how they feature their running backs. All their running backs, whether it's Ahmad Antoine or Caleb Johnson, they have the ability to run in between the tackles, bounce it outside. They'll even catch balls out of the backfield. And they have a veteran, nasty offensive line. So they could see one of the best rushing attacks that they've seen this season.
All right, so congratulations to Howard University. They got past North Carolina Central, who won the game last year. Looking forward to seeing them in Atlanta versus either FAMU or Prairie View. All right, Chuck, let's end it on this. How bad does the SWAC need to get a Celebration Bowl win?
They got to get it real bad. Bragging rights have definitely belonged to the MEAC, and especially over the past 2 years when you've taken a look at Jackson State. If you had told me that Jackson State would go to the Celebration Bowl twice and would not come away with the ring, I would not have believed you. So if the onus is on whomever that SWAC team may be to go out and take on the reins for the SWAC and try to bring one home.
All right, so the championship game will decide who makes it to Atlanta. It is this Saturday, 3 Central, 4 Eastern in Tallahassee. Prairie View, FAMU, Chuck will be there. Hopefully you're there or at least watching it on TV. We'll be talking about it everywhere once it concludes on Saturday night. It's going to be a big one, FAMU and Prairie View A&M. Thank you guys so much for your support and watching and hanging out with me and Chuck all season long here on Pepsi SWAC Game Day. From my man there in Houston, I'm Tolly Carr in Atlanta. We'll see you really soon.